November 25th, 2010, August 20th, 2012, October 10th, 2013, February 18th, 2016, March 14th, 2017, May 21st, 2020, November 4th, 2021.
What were all those dates I just read out, like a cyborg? Well, those were all the times Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc was released. For comparison, Danganronpa 2 was released 6 times, and Danganronpa 3 was released 4 times. Now that was a lot of numbers, and last I checked, I'm not some fucking accountant. I'm actually just mentally unwell. Thank you, New Zealand government. But wait, I'm not here to read out my anti-government anarchist manifesto for YouTube. That's specifically reserved for several politicians and one former US president, and is to be delivered to them in Kaczynski-style packages. For legal reasons, that was a joke, but Spike Chunsoft's game library is anything but a joke. Damn, that was a good segue. Just like my boring Square Enix video from 2 years ago, we're going to take a look back at the history of Spike and Chunsoft, two companies that boned down in order to create this masterpiece. And some other games too, I guess. I don't know. 1983 was a damn good year, at least it was for film. But in that very same year, a video game development and production company named Human Entertainment was founded. No, neither Spike nor Chunsoft were actually around yet, but Human was. And for a company that is no longer with us, they made some killer fucking games. In 1989, Human began publishing the Fire Pro Wrestling games, starting with Fire Pro Wrestling Combination Tag. This game, along with its 31 sequels and or spin-offs, were wildly popular. Now you may be thinking to yourself, why have I never heard of these wrestling games then, huh? Well, first of all, you're probably only familiar with 2K's series of WWE games, you drowsy fuck. And secondly, most of the Fire Pro Wrestling games were only released in Japan. Out of the 32 games in the series, only 6 were released outside Japan, with just 2 of those being worldwide releases. And as you might expect, they came out pretty recently and were not developed or published by Human Entertainment. Human also developed a Gilligan's Island video game, which was published by Bandai Namco in 1990 and actually received an American release. According to the Wikipedia page for the game, the 4 bosses include a gorilla, a cannibal, a bear, and a skeleton. But the series Human is probably best known for, at least among horror game enthusiasts, is Clock Tower. It was released in 1995 and spawned 3 sequels and a spiritual successor by series director Hifumi Kono. Kono, interestingly enough, was inspired by Italian director Dario Argento, who was probably most famous for directing Suspiria and its 2 sequels, Inferno and The Mother of Tears. Why am I talking about Italian giallo cinema? I don't fucking know, I like movies. Fucking draw and quarter me. Anyways, Human filed for bankruptcy in 2000. The end. But luckily, many of its staff moved over to another video game company named Spike in the time before and after their collapse. Spike was founded in 1989 as Mizuki. It wouldn't be known as Spike until quite some time later. By November of 1999, they'd created a subsidiary named Veil, which was made up of ex-Human staff. Now that makes them sound like mutants or something. In 1984, Chunsoft was founded by Door programmer and designer Koichi Nakamura, who had worked with Enix a lot prior. Chunsoft was responsible for creating the Mystery Dungeon series and the twin games Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team. Fast forward a bit to the year 2005, and telecommunications company Dwango is buying both Spike and Chunsoft. If you don't know who Dwango are, they run Nico Nico, the best website. Spike and Chunsoft remained subsidiaries of Dwango until 2012, when both companies merged to create Spike Chunsoft. At the time of the merger, Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair was in development, along with a Conception game. Also, I'd never even heard of Conception before I started writing this, and I gotta say, it sounds fucking wild, and I do not mean that in a good way. The man I mentioned earlier, Koichi Nakamura, is now the chairman of Spike Chunsoft, with the president being Mitsutoshi Sakurai. Sakurai has been in the industry a long ass time and has worked on a plethora of interesting games, both well known and obscure. Games I'm a fan of, such as Siphon Filter, Michigan Report from Hell, Etrian Mystery Dungeon, and Mario and Sonic at the 2016 Olympic Games. He also received a special thanks in regards to Cyberpunk 2077 and No More Heroes, just to name a couple. Speaking of Japanese men, Kazutaka Kodaka is one who was an employee of Spike Chunsoft for 10 years. Why am I talking about Kodaka, you may be wondering? Well, Kodaka over here wished to create a battle royale style detective game which pitted high school students against one another. This game was titled Distrust and was immediately trashed and incinerated by Spike Chunsoft for being just too fucked up. So Kodaka tinkered with the idea a bit more, made the blood pink, and successfully pitched Danganronpa. He, along with many other employees of Spike Chunsoft, left in 2017 to found 2Kyo Games. Do I even have to explain what Danganronpa is? I will briefly go over it because I like increasing my workload for no reason. As I said previously, Danganronpa is a battle royale inspired whodunit centered around a large cast of high school students, each proficient in one specific talent, like biker gang leader, fortune teller, or affluent prodigy. You get the idea. The ultimates, as they're referred to, are trapped in a single location and pitted against one another as a murder mystery unfolds. You, the main character, must investigate the deaths of your fellow ultimates as they occur, and attempt to figure out the culprit in a series of tense court trials, littered with minigames, character revelations, and the most overly dramatic scripting and editing I've seen since Indian soaps. All three mainline games follow this basic formula, but switch things up with different locations, characters, setups, unique deaths, and court minigames. It's not a series for everyone, and its fanbase is definitely annoying. I mean, just take a look at the Danganronpa subreddit. Within 3 seconds of seeing a character tier list, you'll be wishing the punishment rocket was real so you could take it for a spin. Trigger Happy Havoc, the first game in the series, was a monumental success, as if the dates in the opening weren't proof of that. Gameplay mechanics and the overall world building and character motivations were built on with every new entry in the series. Even version 3, which is universally the least liked of the trilogy, has good shit to offer, like music, gameplay, environments, and characters. Danganronpa 2, however, would have to take the cake for me. The game is almost perfect in every single facet. I'm probably being biased, but I genuinely love it. Of course, these aren't the only 3 Danganronpa games. Just to go over the more popular ones. In 2014, a rail shooter titled Ultra Despair Girls was released and was received pretty favourably. It takes place during an interesting time period, which I can't go into due to spoilers, and follows the sister of one of the characters from the original game. While its gameplay and scenario are very different from Trigger Happy Havoc, it still felt like an appropriate entry for the series. Many Trigger Happy Havoc staff returned for this spin-off, including Masafumi Takada, who composed the soundtrack, and voice acting talents who returned to reprise their roles. A few years back in 2021, a spin-off titled Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp was released. This was during a lull, post version 3, where fans were craving for more Danganronpa content despite Spike Chunsoft's adamant stance that the series was on permanent hiatus. This game did not go over well. Let me explain. The mainline games all have post-narrative bonus content, meant to casually engage players and probably not for very long. All 3 of these bonus modes are light dating sims. Ultimate Summer Camp is a fully realised continuation of that idea, as horrible as that sounds. I was fine with the games having a weird little dating sim as an unlock bonus for completing the main story. They're not mandatory, not canon, and are pretty limited gameplay wise. If they were Amagami or Love Plus levels of polish, then I'd be upset, but they're just not. But having a whole game dedicated to that shit is just super lame. Suffice to say, it was not received well. But as I'm sure many of you are aware, there exists Danganronpa media outside the realm of video games. Of course there's manga and light novels, but they're not what I want to focus on. No, I'm talking about the anime. The first season, adapted from the first game, was released in 2013. It's not a series looked on with fond eyes by fans of the games. It was my first introduction to Danganronpa as a whole, and even without knowing any background information, I didn't really enjoy it. It's a rushed milquetoast adaptation of the game, to put it frankly. For those unfamiliar with the franchise, it might not seem that bad, but for anyone that's played the game, it is unfortunately a sheer departure. The reception from fans of the game was so poor that they decided to not even adapt Danganronpa 2 into an anime. Instead, they veered off in another direction, which resulted in them creating what feels like decently produced fanfiction rather than something original. This wasn't an inexperienced team working on these either. Before this, they worked on Persona 4 the animation and Devil Survivor 2 the animation, both adaptations from popular Atlas games. I'm largely unfamiliar with Devil Survivor, both the anime and the games, but Persona 4 the animation was my first real introduction to the Persona series altogether. It's a decent show and serves as a relatively accurate and respectable adaptation of the game. So what's happening with Spike Chunsoft now, and more specifically what's happening with Danganronpa? The last big game I saw Spike Chunsoft release was Zanki Zero, and that didn't exactly go very well. They are making a Made in Abyss game though, which is cool. It's being entirely supervised by Made in Abyss creator / pervert Akihito Sakuchi. I began writing this script 2 years ago, so oops. I'm a bit late on that one. An update on that Made in Abyss game though. It sucks. Series writer Kazutaka Kodaka stated that he's open to returning to the series, but Spike Chunsoft have said they don't plan on releasing any mainline titles for a while. So Danganronpa might be dead, I don't know. I kinda hope the series isn't done just yet because there's still a lot of untapped potential, but I can understand why they'd want to stop now. They've released 3 amazing mainline titles, a rail shooter, a VR tech demo that I didn't even mention, and a shitty ass RPG dating sim. Whatever they decide to do, I'll be happy. Thanks for watching. This video was obviously a long time in the making. I started on it immediately after the Square Enix video, so yeah, it has been a while. I guess subscribe for more garbage.